Hey, I'm with director ZIAD Hamzeh and author Christine Handy about the new film Hello Beautiful. Christine, why don't we just start with you? Tell us, what is the story about Hello Beautiful?
The story is a fictional depiction of my life. I started modeling as a child, and I went from being a very successful model to feeling like I lost my identity when I was diagnosed with breast cancer at a young age, and went through a lot of chemotherapy and a lot of surgeries and came out really scarred. But what I realized during that process was that my identity was so wrapped up into external things for so long that the truth of my identity was really my job, and my faith was more of a tenet and more of a stronghold that should have been in my life versus like materialism and my career in modeling. And so after I came out of that diagnosis, I realized that I needed to change a lot of the things that were focuses of my life. And so I wrote a book about breast cancer and my journey. And then really the book was about the people that showed up for me, and also, the transformation of what somebody goes through during a breast cancer, can go through during a breast cancer diagnosis. And there wasn't really a book about that when I was going through breast cancer, and also a movie about that. All the movies that I sought to see, right? When you're diagnosed with somebody, you want something, you want to see that on screen. You want to learn, other than from the medical world and the medical jargon, other stories of hope. And I didn't see any in Hollywood. I saw films about breast cancer and also illness, very popular films, but they all ended in a funeral. And so I thought to myself, if I can ever get my book, my story made into a film, wouldn't that be something special to give the world hope instead of fear, which is what often Hollywood is portraying.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen my fair share of breast cancer movies, and they tend to feel very procedural. Like this happens, then this happens, and it follows a similar structure. And what I appreciate about Hello Beautiful was it really was about the people and the connections and those who support, the support system you had in there. And I think that's the thing that really came across that sets this apart from the other films.
Yes. Well, certainly the ending sets us apart as well. I'm not going to give the ending away, but the last scene of the movie is something that nobody has ever put on screen. So we're excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious question, did you make it? And
Alan, did you see the film, Alan?
Yes, I did.
Okay. He already knows what the ending is.
Yeah. And
we're going to tell the audience.
Yeah, we won't tell. But Hamzeh, sorry, ZIAD, how did you get involved with the project, with the film?
Well, a friend came and said, you should read this book because it's really quite touching. It is different, and think about it as a film. I said, all right, I'll do that. And I read the book, and I thought it was so broad to actually be able to put every detail of the journey that Christine had gone through in one film or in an hour and a half. It just couldn't be, because there were so many parts of her life that are layered and complex, and other issues came to light in it. And I thought, but there is fullness in this that I didn't want to lose as I'm transitioning it into film format. And so one of the things that touched me was almost as though Christine woke up, or at the end of the day, had to write the experiences of that particular day. It was almost like a diary, almost guiding someone. Here's what you should be expecting. Here's what happened to me. Here's what took place. And it was really heart-wrenching. So I was very touched by the book. I met with Christine, and we hit it off. And I said, I'm going to write the screenplay. And we did. And from there, it's been what, nearly 6 years, Christine?
6 years.
Yeah.
6 years.
So I've got to ask you, I mean, Christine, you wrote the book. It's very personal to you and your story. And you and ZIAD, you mentioned 90 minutes. What is that negotiation like between what what parts of your story you tell, what parts of stories you change for the sake of drama. What was that conversation like, and what were the thresholds that had to be crossed for you to feel comfortable with, yeah, this is the changes that need to be made?
Well, I think globally, breast cancer is a global epidemic. Breast cancer affects so many, almost everybody, right? It's whether a mother or sister.
I mean, I'll say full disclosure, my wife is going through it right now.
Oh, okay. So you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a text from a friend in Dallas yesterday, and she said 2 of her friends were diagnosed last week. It's literally an epidemic, and I'm so disheartened that there are not more films on this. Mm-hmm. And so the space is there, and it's necessary to give people hope. And so the things that we left out were the things that maybe weren't so hopeful. We wanted it to be a love story. We wanted to show the grit and the grace, but also the pain and the duress that a patient goes through. We weren't going to sacrifice the hardship of the disease, but we wanted to show an arc where, yes, people do survive. And yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because that exists in my life, and it exists in a lot of people's lives. But I had other illnesses. I had a fused right arm, and I had a reconstructed colon. And those things were taken from the story. They didn't need to be in the movie. They needed to be in the book, because it was almost like a trifecta. It was like one illness led to another, which led to another, which led to another, which was like this boiling effect. But in the movie, you don't need to show that. And so it was it was hard for ZIAD to write the screenplay, and it took draft after draft and years of changing it. But really, when we cut down the other illnesses, it made it more clear. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah. ZIAD, you want to say anything about that?
Well, indeed, I think why even begin to make somebody's life or a film unless you are going to do justice by them? That was the basis in which I went to the story. And one of the most important things that really touched me there is the experience of Christine and her family during having the fight with breast cancer, and that incredible tension and incredible support that existed simultaneously. That was quite intriguing, and I loved to put the struggle versus, of course, the support, and being able to decipher and merge both of them to become one. Both of them, the negative and the positive, sort of married on the path to her recovery. Mm-hmm. So when I really looked at the importance of what is happening, it was more of the dynamics of the experiences that she was going through, living through, whether the pain, whether the suffering, whether the tiny little of joys that she receives, that it needed to be properly balanced rather than one particular note and runs through. Here is a person that has an incredibly full life, a public life, and at the top of their career. And you understand their relationships with the world, with themselves, with their husbands, with their spouse, with their children, and on and on. And I really needed to establish what someone is going to be losing in the process of actually having to fall. When you drop out of a window, you know your bones are going to break. Boom, that's it. It's, and trying to put all of these pieces together, that was the basis of what I thought really is important, is having to see what and how long and how deep the fall has happened and what it takes for the rise to come up again. So that came across quite effectively as Christine and I, continue developing, continue looking at the various parts of her life.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like I said, I've seen many films about cancer and the trials and tribulations one goes through, and going through it in the past and going through it now, there's that authenticity. I think that's really important. And there were just moments throughout this whole film that I was feeling like, oh yeah, I remember that moment.
Yeah.
I remember that time. And, I want to ask you about not only casting Trisha Helfer and what it was like working with her, but how do you work with your cast to ensure that this authenticity remains, or this authenticity exists within the film?
Well, that was the basis, actually. When Christine and I cast the film together, because we wanted to be on the same page. We wanted to understand that someone that we're handing the role to is capable of actually bringing that sense of believability, that sense of authenticity that comes. That word was our entire spectrum, knowing that we're going to be in a glass bowl, looked at as how those experiences really match the experiences of everybody. So although it is, in many ways, it is Christine's story, we wanted to broaden that so that it becomes a global story. So the role of Willow became an every woman, in order for us to actually allow that um, sort of breadth and width and extension to come across. But one of the things that we needed to absolutely ensure that the actors understood that this is not an experience based on our imagination, but it is an experience based on true facts, and that someone has lived it. Christine was on the set. They were able to turn around and ask her directly, what was it like? I remember when she and Trisha would go out to lunch and would be discussing, what was it like? How is it? Because we were committed on maintaining a sense of honesty, nothing to be overly dramatized or under dramatized. It is the experiences that were honestly lived that we wanted to bring on. And the casting process dealt with that quite a bit, where we wanted to see what these actors are feeling and capable of delivering. Will they be able to be that honest, that truthful, that courageous? Did Trisha Helfer have the depth and breadth of those experiences? Would she be able to, deliver such a role? And of course, now I can tell you, I'm blown away by Trisha Helfer because of her performance and because of also her attitude on the set. An incredible, generous actor who is respectful, who is kind, who is collaborative. And everyone actually on not only the cast, but the entire crew, sort of all pulled together, and everyone knew that there is something special we are creating, that it wasn't something, this is okay, we're going to put it in the theater, we're going to make $2 and we're going to move on. Everyone knew that this is for something much more important than one individual can portray.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the best films are the films made with passion. And I
Correct.
think that's what we have here. So our audience is very familiar with Trisha Helfer. What was her casting like, and what was the convincer that said that, yeah, she's the right person to play the role of Willow?
Well, Christine, I'm going to let you begin that.
Well, I mean, I had a certain look in mind. I mean, I wanted that person to resemble me, but I also had a certain age, and I had an ideal person in mind. And when we interviewed this person, ZIAD and I, and I'm not going to tell you the person's name, and we came back, and ZIAD said, I know that's who you want, but I'm not sure that person's going to show up on set and be responsible. And I'm not sure that person has the depth of the role that we need. And so we passed on that person who was really, really wanted the role. And we went to Trisha, and Trisha was the right person.
Actually, Trisha came to us.
Well, that's true. Trisha came to us, and I didn't know Trisha's work. I mean, I certainly went in and looked very quickly at some of her work, and I thought she was amazing, but she's done a lot of sci-fi stuff, and I just didn't know, but she's also been a supermodel. And so that part of her life, she knew. And so we all had a conversation. We had a Zoom, and we wanted people that wanted to be there. We didn't want people that was just like, oh, it was just another 30 days of their life. We wanted, this project was important for people that wanted to be there. And she wanted it. She wanted to be there. And she basically told us early on that this was a project she really cared about. And she read the book. I mean, it was like, she just was on top of everything. And so we trusted her. So we were, I can't tell you how amazed I am at her performance. And she would call me and we'd text each other before the production started, and she would ask me questions. And we, even when we were on set, she would say to me, like in the biopsy room in the hospital scene, she would say, you know, how did this feel? How uncomfortable were you? And so it was important that she and I had a really good relationship, and we do. She's a remarkable woman and very focused, and she got along with everybody and was very community based. You know, she didn't act like a diva. She didn't stay away from the crowd. Zaid and I built a community of people that wanted to be there. We had, every day we had 100 or more people at lunch, and we all had meetings at lunch, and we talked at lunch, and we laughed at lunch, and it was amazing, the community we built, and she was part of that. So I really enjoyed being with her.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say that idea of community is something that indie filmmakers really need to keep in mind and keep, you know, to maintain while making a film, especially at the indie level, because, you know, what you don't want is drama behind the scenes.
Oh, wow.
The camera.
You can't afford it. Everything falls apart if you do so. So it was essential for us to be able to create a family that is united to serving one particular purpose, which is inspiration. And inspiration, if we are to do that, we had to do it first on the set. We couldn't just say, let's inspire others while let's abuse everyone else around us. That just doesn't work. And I've been on, you know, many sets where I'm saying, how are you trying to tell something positive through this negative atmosphere that you're creating for your people? It's just weird.
One other thing I'll say about that is we demanded a really tough schedule. The shots that we got done in a short amount of time, because our budget was limited, and everybody knew that. But Zaid and I, more Zaid than myself, we were there. We didn't ask somebody to do something that we wouldn't have done ourselves. And so the schedule was demanding, but everybody showed up for it, and everybody was all in on that. And it was tough. It was grueling, especially for the emotional scenes that Trisha had to go through. I mean, and she didn't have a lot of breaks. We didn't have the budget to give her a lot of breaks. And so everybody rose to the occasion, but we did it as a team, and we all showed up together.
Yeah. The last question I have is about the audience. You know, when I watch films like this, I think there's a lot of empathy toward those who are going through cancer at the moment, but I feel like that maybe, you know, I'll let you speak to it, but probably your audience is broader than that, for people who are just kind of outside the circle, who, as you say, cancer is something that affects more and more people, and it's almost impossible to live life without knowing someone or having someone close deal with cancer. In terms of, you know, what did you have the audience in mind, and were you writing to a specific audience?
Absolutely. That sort of was needed in order for the impact of what particular breast cancer might have. It's not just on the individual themselves. It is on the mother, it's on the sister, it's on the friends, it's on the husband, it's on the children. So that, you know, the amount of numerous people that are impacted by the presence of cancer, whether from an individual level or from a group level, needed to be there to be honest. If we wanted to have an authentic experience, we wanted to look at the broad spectrum of what the individual and their families and friends go through. So it wasn't just an isolated thing, and also which I hadn't seen as much, at least, or in depth with other stories that have been told. And I really wanted this story to be impactful on all the levels, that someone is in pain, someone is struggling, wherever they might be, whether they, the person who is dealing with cancer at the moment, or the person who knows that particular person. And that needed to come in together, because part of the journey is having the strength of community to be able to overcome and to have that belief and faith in your ability to come to the other side was necessary. It's not easy for a husband, for example, to look and say, how am I supposed to deal with this? I knew this person this way, and all of a sudden now they have no breasts, they have no hair, they have lost the look, they have lost all of these. That's just as much of a struggle as the person who's going through it. So these where loyalties lie, where pain and struggle, where light and day needed to exist on the same venue, was essential for us to actually embrace and bring into the story. Christine, what?
Well, I think that there's no ceiling to who we can help. I think there's no ceiling to the hope we can provide. Because if you look at the very famous Hollywood movies about breast cancer, not Steel Magnolias, but it is about illness, it ends in a funeral. Terms of endearment, stepmother, they end in a funeral. And the audience is there, unfortunately. Breast cancer is an epidemic. You're the perfect example. You're going to want to go. Your wife is going to want to go. The community of people that helped you want to go see this film. And unfortunately, that demographic of women and the people that care for them and their families is huge, and it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
So, and really, what else are they going to watch? There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
So I think that I think there's no limit to how many people will want to see this, and to the success of this, and to the hope that we can provide.
Yeah. I mean, I think hope is the big thing. I remember when it all began for us, it was my wife's doctor basically saying, you have breast cancer, get your affairs in order. And and then we go to our oncologist and says, no, this is a very treatable form of cancer. And, it's just like the 3 weeks in between them that we went through. There is hope there. Science and technology has advanced greatly over these decades, and I think that's the important thing about your story is there is hope.
Well, there's hope, and there's also fear, and there's two different scenarios. We're trying to show the truth and the reality, but also the hopeful ending. And Hollywood's done a bad job of that. I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to be a disruptor in that space, and we're going to do it. We are doing it.
Well, what is also interesting, Alan, that recently, since 2014, more younger women are getting breast cancer, and scientists don't know why. So it is a silent epidemic that is taking place, that no one is quite sure how to deal with it, or what to look for, or what are the causes that are generating this. But this is the most we've ever had in breast cancer since 2014. Yeah. So it's not going to be lesser, unless obviously something else happens magically. But
Absolutely. Okay, well, just the last one. How can we see Hello Beautiful?
Well, Hello Beautiful right now is being submitted to A-list festivals. We're hoping to, once we're here soon, in terms of where it's going to land. And once it lands, indeed, we're going to be dealing with selling it, the film, and we're going to be able to distribute it.
Yeah.
But how that is going to come, because we just recently finished it. So we're still in the process of actually bridging all the pieces to how to get it together.
Yeah. All right. So check your local festivals when they roll around this year.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, ZIAD and Christine. Thank you for your story, and thank you for the film.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Alan.
Absolutely.
And, look forward. So is this still a publication?
It's a website and it's a YouTube channel as well. So this will be on our YouTube channel.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Okay. You take care.
Thank you.